Hello, yes, we are now live.
Okay, welcome to Biopod training at Northampton Reptile Centre with these lovely staff here. And we're going to talk about aquascaping, or scaping I should say, this Biopod Terra. I think it's their entry level Biopod.
Look, the Eden is the smaller one.
Eden, so the Eden is even smaller than this. So this is terrarium only, so not designed for fish like the Aqua and the Aqua 2. If you look at the aspect ratio, it's a lot longer than it is tall, so we need to consider that with the scaping. But let's just talk about Biopod, just as a starter. So what is Biopod? I was very lucky to be invited over to Canada, where they make Biopod, about 2 or 3 months ago, and I learned, obviously quite a bit about Biopod, and it is, to put it simply, the probably one of the most innovative products out there at the moment, especially in this kind of hobby. If you look at it, it looks maybe a little bit similar to most vivariums, terrariums that you might see, but where it kind of has a USP is the controllability, and it's smart. It's a smart microhabitat, to kind of sum it up really. So we have really powerful LED lighting at the top, which you can control UVA, UVB, and infrared, and it's all controllable via your app. And then we have this really cool living wall behind, which we've already prepared a little bit with some mosses, which we tuck into these slats here. And so the idea is you have a circulating water through this moss wall, and that acts as like a really great biological filter. We also have misters right here. We've got a temperature probe here. We've got circulation all built in, and so it combines all these great kind of, really important point, air ventilation right here. You're going to get a close-up of that. So in my experience, most terrariums and vivariums, they suffer from condensation on the front glass, and so what Biopod have done is they've integrated this really cool air ventilation system right here. So when you close that door, there's a gentle breeze of air coming up there, and so you don't get any condensation. And this product isn't designed for, it's almost not designed for hobbyists, it's designed for, it's like a lifestyle thing. So you want to be encouraging a new market with this. People want to grow herbs in their kitchen, or even vegetables, or they want to keep a beautiful living ecosystem. But it's all about trying to make it look really, really great and be healthy for the inhabitants, but keeping in it like a really sort of low maintenance, really easy to look after system. And that's what Biopod have done. And so, we can talk about the app later on, but basically whatever animal you want to keep, or fish or plant, there's an app, and you can almost choose from a database what you want to keep. You press that button, and then the Biopod does everything for you. So it just makes it really accessible to a huge number of people. So, just a bit about myself. My name is George Farmer. I'm a professional aquascaper. I'm not an expert in biopods by any means, but I know how to make things look beautiful, and that's what hopefully I'm going to do today. I can talk a little about the technicalities about the biopod, but my area of strength is making things look really cool. So, with that in mind, let's first start finishing off our moss wall there. So we've got some moss. I think this was locally collected from a garden, wasn't it? Yeah. So we just get little handfuls of moss, and we just literally poke it into these slats here. And the moss is going to grow over time. It's going to be shaded, obviously, because we're going to stick a load of stuff on top of it, and moss does prefer shade. But it also acts as almost like a sponge, so it will hold water, it will hold bacteria, and as the water's flowing over it, it will act as a biological filter, which is really important for the whole kind of ecosystem in the biopod.
Now, there is one of the questions. I was filling up the rest of it earlier on, and I was sort of wondering whether I've overdone the amount of moss. I'll probably put in less. So we'll see.
I don't think you can. I don't think there's I don't think there's an optimum quantity. As long as it's enough to kind of cover the slats. Any more is probably not a bad thing, to be honest. It also acts as from an aesthetic point of view, and that's where I'm really interested in making something beautiful. You want a natural looking background. If you imagine not putting anything in there and then putting our feature plants and wood, you probably see the black behind it, and especially the slats. If you saw that, it would just spoil the illusion of it being really natural. So really important to fill up the slats, not only from a biological perspective, but from an aesthetic one as well. So form and function. So I'm just looking at the whole area now. Any like distinct areas that are empty, I'll just pop a little bit of moss into there. Feel free, guys, if you've got any questions.
Yeah.
Fire them at me. I've got an earthworm in there.
Yeah. Has been trying. Oh.
Definitely from an English garden. Okay, so that's the moss wall done there. We can use sphagnum moss. We've used English garden moss here. But yeah, we'll fill up that nice and easy. Just poke it in. I don't suppose we've got any paper
I'm
clips.
going to. Yes, we have, just behind
Oh,
the.
we might not need them, but just for the future. So there's the moss wall. So if anyone's got any questions at home that are watching this right now, please fire away. If I can't answer it, I'm sure one of the experts behind you.
Yeah, we've got some people on. What could you do in as reptiles? Well, we're going to put frogs in these, aren't we, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, and we've got at the Bell Plantation, we've done the aqua 2, and we've put some yellow-headed geckos in those, and we're going to put some fish in that, or shrimp, because they have the option to have a fish body at the bottom.
Perfect. Okay, so that's the living wall done already. Next is going to be adding our substrate. So we've got a couple of different types of substrate. One is more from a performance, a function point of view. So this is called
Hydro drain.
Hydro Drain. This is a really popular product in terrariums. It just helps water drainage, helps stop the water from going stagnant. It's a really good home for bacteria. And that is going to be added pretty much to cover this surface here. But I'm quite keen from an aesthetic point of view. This doesn't look the best. So we use some cosmetic gravel here. This is called Fiji sand from Unipack. Doesn't really perform anything biologically. Well, not designed to. It will do eventually. But it's more from an aesthetic point of view. So when we look at the Biopod, we don't see this necessarily kind of ugly stuff here. We just see the sort of prettier, natural looking stuff. So I've got a couple of options now. Which one do I add first? Do I add the cosmetic stuff first, around here, and then put this on top? Well, the risk of that is this stuff here is going to fall on top of that. So I'm going to put this on top first. Try to prevent too much from hitting this front glass, because otherwise you'll see it. And have we got a little cup or?
Yeah. Just get them.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we've got here, this is like the drainage system here, and we need to obviously cover that, otherwise it's going to look ugly, but also we need to cover it in terms of a biological filtration point of view. So just add our, I want to call them special balls. Everyone loves special balls. And try not to spill too many in front, because that's going to, like I said, the aesthetic point of view, when you're viewing it, we need the plain gravel to go there. We don't want to see that at the front, because that's going to look rubbish, basically, even though they are special balls.
That's sticking up on the right hand side, the black, what's pushing down and away to hold it.
You want to make sure that the blue heat cable as well is pushed underneath it at the front if you bend your head down.
Oh, I see, yeah. So there is substrate heating in here. So with the Biopod you have control over rainfall, which is done by these misters here, humidity, substrate temperature, so the heating under here, and actual air temperature as well. So shout out if I missed anything. Don't know if any.
And the UV, obviously, which is
AV,
the key thing, the UVB for the
UVA, UVB, and infrared, which I've never actually seen in a LED yet, so it's quite unique.
Yeah.
The Biopod. I'd like to hear from anyone from Calgary watching if they've got any top tips.
Well, are you doing a setup for arid setup? What would you recommend putting in the living wall? Wendy, that's a good question. We've been debating that actually, and I don't know if we actually have the solution yet. I think it's I'm actually meeting up with Jared on Thursday, which is one of the.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's at Foreground on Thursday. So, and I think it's one of the questions we'll ask about arid conditions. What they would suggest.
We could maybe put those air plants. Because they like arid, don't they? Like really.
You could put a soil background, couldn't you, with the air plants in or something?
Biolife desert will dry out and disinfects.
Biolife desert.
Yeah, by
Whole plants.
By ProRep. Okay, cool.
Okay, we've got a layer of special balls there. Now it's time for our.
No.
So let's just make sure.
It's always worth having a credit card.
This is actually those hotel room card things. Yeah.
The ones you give back, don't no.
Yeah, well, we lost so many, so I'd like 3 spare.
So down the side, are we worrying about the balls down the side as well?
I think I'm happy to take a hit on the aesthetics on the side because it's going to be so hard to do that. So we're actually quite happy to put more
and make it
more Bioballs down the side, and then just a front layer of aesthetics on. So this stuff looks mature already. Is it from an existing system?
We've used this before, have we? Or is it straight as it comes, the Bioballs? No, it's just so it's one we've used in the past.
Yeah, only with plants on.
For plants, okay.
No, it's a good thing. It's going to be harbouring loads of benefits to bacteria. So that's a good.
It does need washing out of the bag just to give it that little bit. Yeah, it's quite dusty when it comes out of the bag, isn't it?
Okay.
We've got 21 people watching us.
Hello, 21 people.
And Sarah Ellen says, love the attention to detail. That's Sam's sister. Hi Sarah. You should be here, you might enjoy it actually.
Yeah,
Pop along, pop along.
So I'll get a lot of kind of feedback on attention to why detail is important. When you think about one detail on its own, it doesn't make any difference. But when you add those details together, then that's when it changes the whole feeling, the look of the
It's
state.
interesting you're on about that this is going to change like the industry. There's obviously already been a lot of people doing biopods in the industry, the shops and that, and putting them up, and I think it is making people think a little bit differently about how things can look.
Yeah, it's all about, for me, it's all about getting closer to nature, connecting with nature. And this is one of the easiest ways to do it because it's really low maintenance. All the technology looks after it for you. You can it's almost like plug and play, literally. Put your plants in there, scape it like I'm going to do today, which won't take too long, and hopefully make it look quite easy. And that's the whole idea. You shouldn't be put off by making things look beautiful. And some people don't. They live in a really high density city, Hong Kong, Tokyo. They haven't got gardens. People in London, they live in apartments. They don't have a garden, so why not bring the garden into their sort of modern living space? And what better way to do it for a biopod, where like I say, set it up, press the button, watch it on your phone. I mean, it's got a webcam. You can even, when you're at work, I wonder how my biopod's doing. Get it up on your phone, see how it's doing. So yeah, just a really good at bringing nature closer. And I think the whole human race could benefit a lot from being a bit closer to nature. Okay, next step is to add our cosmetic gravel at the front.
Everybody will wonder why I'm bending down. I'm picking up the extension lead. I'll let Anthony hold that for a second for me. And then I can just go around the side, show people a different angle.
So just for the people that are watching right now, if they didn't see last week, the Biopod Aqua 2 that I did. And check out the Reptile Centre. Is it on the Reptile Centre?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's on
Facebook
there, yeah.
page. You'll see a live stream. I think it was about 2.5 hours of setting that
Around.
up. Out of interest, this is the third Biopod I've ever set up. The first one was in Canada. The second one was at the Northampton Reptile Centre, and then the third one today. And actually, that's a good thing. So people are like, oh, you know, what's he doing setting up biopods? He's not an expert, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, you don't need to be an expert to set one up. And you can use like the creative guidelines and composition and everything like that, and design to create something beautiful. It doesn't matter what the medium is. If you use compositional guidelines, and I'll talk about them in more detail, you can make anything look pretty. So I could go through all of these display tanks, just make a few minor adjustments, and immediately they give you more impact.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can take some of that away.
Because even put the gravel in, the fact that you've got that sort of the light reflecting off of it is making quite a big change to image, isn't it? So what's happening at the moment, anybody that's asking questions, my guys are typing away as fast as they can, giving any information out. And if there's any of those that really want to go, we want to announce, just shout me and we'll ask George the questions. Shout me. What's she saying? Can George say hi, Sarah? Yeah, George. Sarah would like you to say hello.
Hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
She should be here, shouldn't she?
Okay, so that's pretty much the substrate system installed there. We've got a little bit of open area there, but it's going to be absolutely fine. Okay.
Cool.
Now, next stage is my most... I love this stage. This is the Hardscape stage, and those that are here last week know all about Hardscape. But I know some of you weren't. So Hardscape is the materials that we use in the Biopod to create the skeleton, the backbone of the scape. So when you think about a human being, we all have a skeleton, and then our muscles and our flesh are attached to the skeleton. And the bigger that skeleton, the stronger the skeleton, the more robust the whole scape is. And so it's really important to focus on our Hardscape, not only in terms of the materials we're using, but how we position those materials. You can have the best materials in the world, but unless you pay some attention to positioning them, naturally and aesthetically, more appealing, then it's, irrelevant. So, very lucky here today at the Reptile Centre. I've got some beautiful materials to use, and I'm going to use them. I'm going to use a concept, which is actually an aquascaping concept for aquariums, but a guy called Takashi Amano. He sadly passed away 2 years ago. And he invented the concept of the nature aquarium, and it's all about transferring this essence of nature into your aquarium, and we can use that in the Biopod. So I'm going to basically use wood. Do we have any stones here?
Well, rock.
Yeah, round the corner. Yeah,
Okay.
we do.
Have you got
actually.
any colour that match this? Sort of.
Yeah, go and have a look. Sam will take you.
Yeah.
I can go and have a look.
You have a look, and then So when we're using Hardscape, I only use natural materials, or on the odd occasion fake materials, but they look very, very natural. And that's to invoke this sense of nature, and that's what it's all about. It's trying to make it look as natural as possible, and actually be as natural as possible, because if it's natural, if it's got live plants, and is appropriately designed for the livestock that's in there, then that livestock's going to thrive. You're going to enjoy looking at it. You're going to enjoy looking after that livestock to the sort of best of your ability. So, I'll wait for some. I'm going to have a little quick
Yeah, go and have a
peek at
look.
the box. Excuse me a moment.
I'll just home in and have a little look. Chargers. The black bait, yeah, come and have a look, Chad. So we've done it so that the black base is completely covered with the bio balls. I think if it's done like that, then it's showing the customer what we've done as well. Actually,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt. No,
That's okay. We're going to use wood only.
I think you're meaning we haven't got any nice rock. We should have thought of that.
Got some beautiful rocks here, but none specifically appropriate for this layout, so it's no problem. Got some beautiful wood, and we'll let the wood do the talking. Okay. That's my paintbrush.
What do you need?
Paintbrush. Could have one in there, but it's okay, no problem. Okay, so hardscaping. We're going to go wood only. So we've got 3 or 4 different types of wood here. And normally I'd only stick with one type. But what I'm hoping is they don't look too different. They're kind of similar shades of brown, similar textures. But I'll just show you, hopefully, how we can create a really strong kind of hardscape layout using the wood. Paying attention to the composition, design, making things look as natural as possible. And to do that, we first start off with the most dominant piece. Now this is really interesting. This, to me, looks like a bit of a witch's broomstick end. But I love it. It's just like so much texture there. I think we can use that really, really well. I think the animals that live in there will love it as well. So, big mistake, or a common kind of thing I see with beginner aquascapers or scapers is they tend to rely on just 1 or 2 really kind of bulbous, lumpy pieces of wood or rock. You know, there's no need to do that. You can use really fine texture stuff, and it just gives more interest to the layout, makes it look more natural, gives the animals more interest themselves, and it just makes the whole kind of composition look more complex. Okay, so what's the most interesting side? Interestingly, we're all from the west. We're all kind of right from left to right, unless you're a bit odd. But I guess most of us can read and write, and we all write from left to right. So, actually, we prefer to view things left to right, so we can use that to our advantage with our hardscaping. So I'm just going to deliberately use the height. Really want to fill up the height there. Nothing worse than seeing loads of empty space in a scape. So that will just pop there. Hopefully. So I'll probably have a little adjustment later. So next I'm going to work my way down to the next most kind of dominant piece, which is this one here. And when we're scaping, we're thinking 3 dimensions, not just looking at it straight on, but how it looks from front to rear as well. Sort of definite kind of flow coming from the left to the right there, yeah? So let's kind of think about that when we position our next pieces of wood. So just like a glove. And then moving down in size. I'm not a big fan of this. This is like cut off, man-made, it looks unnatural. This bit's a little bit more natural, but I think that's why I snapped it off. But if we hide the man-made bit and have that bit going off into the distance, I feel it looks quite natural. Same again with this piece here. So man-made bit, natural bit. Let's have the natural bit on view. Let's use the 3 dimensions so we have something coming towards us as well. And then this crazy piece here. and then we should just fiddle around with it. So it's really important with Hardscape to take your time. Obviously I've only taken a couple of minutes to do that. If I was at home, you know, I would just literally keep fiddling around with it till I look at it and I think, can I make that look any better? Can I make it look more balanced? Can I make it look more natural? Can this bit be shifted here? There's a bit here that's empty, so let's just fill that up there. Support that with that bit there. And you've got to think about the functional point. From a functional perspective, you know, is the Hardscape going to help out the animals? We scaped an Aqua 2 last week, and there was a combination of reptiles and fish in there. And my concern was, you know, if the reptiles fall into the water, have they got an escape route? Can they climb onto something and get their way out? So think about it, not just from an aesthetic point of view, but from a functional point of view, because at the end of the day, it's the animals' welfare. It should be your number one priority. It's my ACD kicking in, sorry.
That's a good thing.
Attention to detail. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, looks nice, but a lot of horizontal sort of movement here, a lot of kind of diagonal movement there, and there's quite a lot of space there. So if I can balance it a little bit better. And we can always change it when we're doing the planting as well, so we shouldn't get too obsessed about getting the Hardscape right now. We can make minor adjustments later on. But I quite like that.
Oh, that's what I was. Then I thought it might be quite good if it just stays there. It's the original one when we did this.
So I'm conscious that. Okay, that's better. When we plant, and for those that watched the Aqua 2 demo, transforms it again. But we need to start off with this really effective base point. The Hardscape is the backbone of the layout. So do take your time, choose your materials, use them well, think about composition, think about balance, think about the flow. So some of you might be into photography, you might have heard of the rule of thirds, and it's really useful for positioning the focal point. A focal point is where your eye naturally leads to, naturally gets drawn to, and it's normally about a third of the way along of anything you look at. So the main weight of this Hardscape here is about here, which is about a third of the way along. And then we've got this natural flow, everyone can hopefully see. We've got a distinct flow of wood coming from left to right. Now you could put the wood in there randomly, any old way, and I guess that's what most people do at home. But if you just give it a little bit of thought, consideration.
Do you find you're thinking about the plants at this point, or do you just wait and see what happens?
It's a really good question. I just wait and see what happens in this case. When I'm aquascaping at home, I'm normally commissioned, or I normally have a brief that I'll have to conform to, and they want to grow this sort of plant or have something low maintenance, so everything kind of falls from the brief. If I'm left freestyling like today, I wasn't aware of the plant choice or the Hardscape choice, so I always go Hardscape first because that's the backbone, and then follow that up with the planting to suit the Hardscape. There's always a process, and there's always a vision, and the vision is the hardest bit, and that's the thing that comes with practice. You know, I can see how that's going to look already in my mind. I don't know the names of the plants. I don't know. But I can kind of have an idea because I know like kind of shapes and textures and colours, and I can kind of get an idea of how it's going to look. That makes sense?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it's just important to have this theme with Escape. Don't just go in it chaotically. Don't go to a shop and then just sort of buy things on impulse. Plan it. You know, have some idea. You know, go on the internet, look at books, think, oh, you'll really like that. I really like this. Sketch it out, plan it. Do your research, and then go and get those materials, and then execute that vision. Don't just do things kind of randomly. Okay, so fairly happy with that.
Josh King saying loving how it looks so far.
Good. So that's the hardscape done. Any questions? No? Good.
That's great.
Okay, so let's go on to planting. So we talked about composition, we talked about focal points, and with planting it's the same thing. If you use a dominant plant, then you have to pay attention to where that's going to be situated in the scape. So if I went for like a really bright plant, I wouldn't necessarily just stick it randomly. I know that red is going to draw the eye, and that's where you need to think about positioning it. So red is the obvious choice. We have got beautiful plants here, but red is, you know, by human nature, your eyes are more naturally drawn to red than green. Green is actually a very kind of peace-invoking colour, and that's I think one of the reasons I love aquascaping so much is because most of it is green. You sit in front of an aquascape, and it's really peaceful. So, what's this? Cryptanthus. Does anyone know that?
We're all learning.
I think if you say it with confidence, no one's going to
Common
question
sense.
it. This is Cryptanthus.
Earth star is the common name.
Earth star. You can see why, because the profile there looks very much like a star shape. Unlike most, it's a bromeliad. Unlike most bromeliads, this species requires a shady position and a damp soil. Do not waterlog, though, or the roots will rot. Reproduces slowly from offshoots. So that's a contender for our focal point plant. Love that. Never seen that before. We've got loads of Fittonia here, I think.
Yeah, you see, we know
We
that
love
one. Don't we? We
Fittonia.
like that one.
Yeah. So that's another contender for focal point. There's another kind of classic bromeliad here, which I used the other day, so I'm probably not going to use that again. You don't want to be...
There's a tricolour there. Just...
So loads of options for focal point plants. I mean, like I said, we normally use red for that. And then when we think about the rule of thirds, we normally position the focal point plant off to about a third. So around about here would be ideal. We can probably just shift these twigs around and then just literally just slot it in there. The humidity and the circulation, everything will just make sure hopefully that plant will grow no problem wherever it's put in there. So that's the focal plant discussed. Let's think about actual the main event of planting, and it's a relatively small product, the Biopod, and we need to kind of think about a sense of scale. So when I talk about sense of scale, I mean we can almost sort of create the illusion that something's bigger than it really is. So to do that, we use really, really fine textures, and in photography that's really apparent. If you use really, really fine textures, really small fish, you take a photo of an aquascape, and people, you know, a non-hobbyist will have no clue on how big that scape is. And I think that's a really cool kind of lesson that you can apply to the Biopod. So I'm going to use some really fine textures first of all. And this is called Cellularia. I'll call it Sol. That's my nickname for it. And you can see there, lovely bushy appearance, really fine textures.
If you pass me a label as you go, then I can do that. One of one of those.
That one,
Then,
isn't it? Yeah, it's a classic. Cellularia.
And I can actually, when people say what plant are you using, you can actually.
So I'm going to apologise in advance. I'm going to move the wood around. I'm going to swear probably. I'll use words like damn and blast rather than real swear words. But we're going to plant this, and the living wall makes it really easy to plant into. We can literally just plug the portions of plants in to those gaps in the back. I did an Aqua 2 last week, and all the plants, do they all stay up?
They are, and they're all looking, even the ones we were worried about a little bit more, it was coping very well with the...
That's good.
Yeah, I mean there's been a few, I think, move, and we've took them back up, but I think that's because we've been looking at the irrigation aspect as well of the...
So the classic way to attach your plants would be to use like a steel wire, if someone can pass me one.
They're a bit behind there, aren't they? You actually wanted a little bit longer, didn't you? And we didn't sort that out for you. They're the original ones we spoke about.
Yeah, so you can use one of these. These will hook onto your slats at the back, and then you can hook the main body of the plant around there, and that will keep it suspended. But there's an even easier way. If you create an appropriate size of portion, you can literally just plug the plant in. So let's start off there.
This is where I'm worried I've put too much
That's fine.
moss in.
Okay, and you can already see that because we've got that lovely living wall already at the back there, it looks quite natural, doesn't it? It's blended in.
Take as much soil as you can off of it.
Off of it, yeah, to prevent powdering.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of soil actually, or a lot of depth in that moss as well.
Yeah, so try to remove as much of that because that's going to cause the fouling of water.
Yeah.
Loads of nutrients in this. So let's get rid of as much of that as possible. We use and comb it away with some tweezers. So if Tom's watching, I'm expecting my Biopod at home fairly soon, Tom, so I can grow my own herbs in my kitchen. Big fan of home cooking. And I'm going to aquascape one of these actually, Biopod Terra, and I'm going to scape it with like basil, thyme, and that should do a Terrascape with herbs.
I thought about orchids as well would
That's
be very
included
nice
on the
in
app,
the
isn't it?
aqua too. Oh yeah, in the app, yeah, you can do
grow stuff and
well, we probably the app, which we've been working with all week, has a selection of fish, a selection of lizards, doesn't it? Plants. It's got quite a lot of choice in there.
Yeah. Yeah, the Biopod just sort of takes all the hassle away. So, I mean, I've never kept a vivarium or terrarium, but I guess it's a little bit of experimentation with different lighting, different heating, you know, different plants and everything like that. But with Biopod, I guess a lot of the guesswork's taken out for you. And it just makes it really accessible to a whole new range of hobbyists, and obviously, hopefully, it's creating a lot of excitement in the vivarium and terrarium world as well. So what I'm doing now, I'm not deliberately bunching all of this same species together, because that would make it look unnatural. I like to kind of, I kind of like to deliberately mix textures to create this sense of nature. You know, you don't walk into a jungle and see like an immaculate lawn, do you? You know, everything's kind of grown over each other and the textures are all mixed up and blended. And that's the kind of effect we're going for here.
And that plant comes in different colours, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, different ranges of green. There's a bit of a yellow one there, which we'll use as well. And different kind of leaf sizes. But it's very, very. I know I have grown it before in an aquarium, but just growing out the top of the tank, which looks amazing. So we'll go for like a bit of a paler green now. So it's the same species of plant, just a different variety.
If anybody is watching this and they're looking at the labels I'm putting up, on these there is this code here, so if you want to ring us up and get help getting the plants, that PPL264 is actually the code for it.
So just getting rid of as much of that mud as possible, that soil. This is when this is grown in the nurseries, this is the nutrient store. And so if we incorporate too much of that into the biopod, then that's going to potentially lead to fouling, algae, excess organics basically. So try to remove as much of that as possible. I would hazard the guess, because I know this is so hardy, I could actually fit this, attach this to the wood, and the roots would take hold, and the nutrient content in the water being sprayed would be enough to keep this alive. So I'm just going to pop one here.
We'll have a go.
And then it's kind of leading your eye, it's creating a bit better sense of depth. And that's what scaping is all about. It's about trying to transport you from this, looking at a two-dimensional, you're used to looking at a TV or a computer screen or a phone, and everything's two-dimensional. But when you look at a scape, you should hopefully get this essence of the three dimensions, looking like into the depth, taking you through the canopy, giving you real kind of sense of that you're really there. And actually, that's one of the great things about nano tanks and smaller tanks, because it forces you to get up close. And if it's a good scape, you literally get transported into this other world. So, you know, and that's when attention to detail really comes into its own when you're scaping small tanks like this.
Do you prefer building them or looking at them when they're finished?
I love the whole process, actually. My most exciting stage is the empty tank, because that's like infinite potential. There's infinite room for creativity. It's like an artist with a blank canvas, literally. It's the same thing. But I love the whole process. I love doing this. I love talking about it, trying to impart my passion to inspire and educate other people. I love watching it all grow. I'm a photographer as well and a filmmaker, so I love that part of it. And I'll get one of the biggest puzzles I get is actually seeing my work published in a magazine or a book, and then it's reaching a whole new audience, and it's kind of immortalised as work. I've been very lucky. I've been writing for Practical Fish Keeping for 11 years now, and every month I get a new issue. It's I see my stuff in there, and it's just amazing. It's just get a real sense of achievement, and it's really cool. It's really cool to do workshops because I do a lot of work on the web, but social media is a big thing for me. But it's actually engaging with real people and seeing their kind of reaction, and you kind of you get that instant feedback that they're enjoying what you're doing and they're kind of inspired, and you can hopefully carry that forward and spread the word, if you like. Any other questions, guys? Well, no.
If you had used rocks, would they be all the way to the left as well?
Yeah, definitely. I'll do a bigger mass of stone around here, and then leading into smaller stones as it came out.
So it's right at the front and on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I wouldn't do any on here. This is going to be all
some
planting.
dragonstone would have gone nice in the back, wouldn't it?
Yeah, dragonstone would have been perfect. Yeah. There's room for detailing later, so we can use small twigs, branches, just to create this kind of woodland effect. We don't need stones. Stones can. The thing is with stones, they kind of invoke a sense of being in a stream, where this is terrarium only, so there's no stream. So actually, it's not a bad thing. There's no stones. One of the I've done a bit of research into terrarium scaping and things like that, and a lot of the scapes I see are full of really big textured plants, full of feature plants, and to me that's a little bit confusing. So you don't know where you're kind of looking for that focal point, and there isn't any clear. There's no clear theme to the scape either, and I think that's where a lot of people may want to consider if they wanted to improve the aesthetics of their scape. That's what they can consider doing. So I'm approaching this, the majority of my kind of influence is from that aesthetic point of view, the visual impact. It's obviously really important to consider the needs of the animal as well. But I'd like to think a frog or two would love it in there. Okay. We're nearly there with the Solaria. Let's do one more. Go for a bit of a yellow, a golden tinge here. So same species. It's either going through a nutrient deficiency or it's really healthy and just different colour. whatever it is, I'm sure it'll work out fine in here.
I must have enough in here now anyway.
So I think the Biopods are available in 5 different sizes. There's the Eden, the Terra, the Aqua 1, Aqua 2 and the Grand. I haven't done the Grand yet. They look...
There's a box next door.
Is there?
That's that one.
Maybe you get me another time to do that for you.
That's nice.
So just a little bit more colour there. And we're deliberately not putting it all together in the same place, just to give us a bit of a graduation in those green hues. And a lot of scaping is actually about doing the same thing over and over again. So you probably watch Karate Kid, like wax on, wax off. It's actually a bit of a lesson there in scaping. You know, you can do this. You know, it doesn't have to be like really big, impactful stuff. You can do lots of little things. Just
Can you plug the charger in for me? What are you laughing at, son?
You unplugged my charger. I was blaming Adam.
What I noticed with the spray aspect of the rain, obviously you can only there's a crossover where there's a dry area at the front, if you like, with the other one. So of course some of the plants, what we've got to look at is when the rain is coming down, that even with moving those nozzles, that we make sure those plants get moisture.
yeah, a lot of it's trial and error
It is.
on the startup phase, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're there with the Solariae. Let's think about our next plant. And we work our way up in texture size, basically. So, yeah, let's have a little look what we've got. So this looks lovely. This is a beautiful plant we can use for detailing. Wouldn't necessarily use it all in one clump. I know it's very hardy. Yeah, that's nice.
We've also got obviously a lot more plants down here.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an ideal plant for the next installation, which is called...
It's called, I can't actually say that,
I'll say it.
Beckia complexa.
Good.
You have a go.
Muhlenbeckia.
Muhlenbeckia.
Muhlenbeckia complexa, which is not this one. That one. This one.
I don't know what the
It was this one, I think.
That little one's just a fern. Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a fern.
So this is Muhlenbeckia complexa. This is going to be kind of one grade up in terms of texture and leaf size from the Solariae.
Oh, there you go. That's already done for you, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah. But I'm not going to just plant this in one clump because it is quite big. Separate it and hopefully create a bit of a canopy
Open that for you.
at the top there. So just getting rid of all that excess soil, and then we can divide that up. It's a bit trickier than aquatic plants.
That's an interesting thing that people, you know, they look at plants, they perhaps don't realise they can break the plants up into more than one.
You can imagine each one of those stems is capable of growing on its own. So you could, if you wanted to, you could do a crazy scape. But we'll just pop that up there. Tuck it in that slat. Spread it out a bit. Carry that on over to the right of touch. Okay. Starting to really develop now, the scape. This is going to look totally different once the system's running. These are going to turn upright and give a whole new aesthetic. It's a little bit kind of feeling sorry for itself at the moment, but there's a couple
48 hours after doing the other one,
yeah,
and
everything starts facing the light and it really comes into its own. So, regular fern, this one, not sure the scientific name. Actually quite high impact on its own, so let's separate that up a bit.
Yeah, Sarah's asking about the cabinets. We're going to have these cabinets available to sell. At the moment it may be that you have to collect them from the store only, but we're hoping that we can actually be selling that and shipping it out through our website. They don't come with them, the Terra's come on their own. This is a gloss cabinet that we've had purpose made, so yeah, we can look at that, and anybody wants to know more about that can give us a call, we can get them made to measure.
Okay, I'm just going into, sorry, it's literally art mode. So we're lacking stuff right at the top there, so I'm conscious of making, maybe if we just tuck that right at the top there. So I'm just working my way down now. They've got these empty spaces here. So these are like the backing plants, and then we've got our feature plants to put in front. So I want to do some more finer textures, some what I might refer to them as boring plants, but actually as part of the whole design they're essential. They're like the backing orchestra, if you like. So we're going to use some more Solaria, Sol.
Wendy's just asking how economical they are to run. Well, I would think they're quite economical. They've got a heat cable. There's an LED.
The LEDs are super efficient.
Yeah, the UV. So the heating is done on the minimum heat that is necessarily required. It's like, I think it's like running like a pulsed, thermostatically controlled in there. So I would say very economical. One thing we haven't talked about is the webcam. That's on the pod. I spoke to Jared today about that. I think they're thinking about possibly advancing and doing more on that, and having some extra bits that people could buy to have webcams inside the units.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of ideas, which is nice.
Oh yeah, this is by no means the finished product in terms of long-term development. It's going to evolve. Ideally with bolt-ons, so if you do buy the original unit you can add stuff to it. But I think that's one of the best things about this setup, is that everything's there that you need. The heating, circulation, air temperature, water temperature, and it's all measured in on your app. You can see exactly how things are doing. You don't even have to be there. You can be at work or on holiday, and you can still see how your biopod's doing.
So Mike is asking what we're going to put in here. We're going to put some poison arrow frogs, I think.
Yeah.
Have we got any thoughts on which ones, or possibly the yellow and blacks? We've got some little baby yellow and blacks in, haven't
Yeah.
we? I don't know
Yeah,
if
got some lovely ones in.
Okay. So we're lacking plants around here. Here's the focal point plant, which we talked about already, probably a bromeliad, or some Fittonia, or both. Fittonia, that's one of the Fittonia. Yeah. So, quite conscious there's a lot of space here which I'd like to cover, and we need something quite broad, quite luxurious, like a pillowy kind of effect, I think, like a carpet. So I think this would look really good.
Oh yeah, this
So
is
Laginella.
nice. This is nice.
So this would be like almost like a carpeting foreground plant, which I'd use an aquascaping. I think we can fill up lovely around here.
Let's have that.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'll grab another one. I can show people what it is. Okay, so Saginella, and there's the code there. Ground covering plant, high humidity.
Perfect. This is going to spread and fill out this gap here. We can put some more background stuff just there. Let's have a look. Oh, we've got some more. Need to use all that though. So let's have a little think. What do we do next? Yeah. So I'm still thinking something quite there's not too much of a feature, not too eye distracting. That might be quite nice. It might be a bit there. Actually, yeah, that's a good shout. So you've got the label there.
I don't know what that one's called.
Bunkers. Pink. Ficus.
Is this a ficus? No, no, it's not a rubber-based plant. Ficus are rubber, rubber plant. Oh, is it?
Sorry.
One of our popular ones.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because the variegation's beautiful.
They grow really quickly.
That'll be obviously something everybody else will have to sort of learn. We've got to learn the trimming game as well when you get these up and running, and learn sculpting them as they grow, haven't you?
Yeah. That should be part of the joy of it. It's like the gardening aspect. So it is a living thing. You can't just expect it to kind of set it up and then do nothing. You know, do get involved with the pruning and think about how that pruning is going to affect the whole aesthetic of the layout as well.
Yeah, it's nice. So we've got obviously a few people following us now. Can we have some love, please, everybody that's watching? Can everybody start pressing their buttons and I see some little
Share it.
modes? Yeah, I hope everybody's sharing
The
it.
big thing is sharing it, guys. You know, if you're enjoying it and you've got people out there on your Facebook that you think would enjoy it as well, then just hit that share button.
Oh, here we go. We've got some love coming in. Just one love.
One love. What's the song about that?
Oh no, we've got some more. Thank you, everybody. Just so we know there's people out there. That's better.
So, Reptile Centre, how long has it? You've been here a while, haven't you?
Yeah,
This
we've
place.
been trading since 1995.
Wow.
It's a long time. Yeah. Older than Adam. That's your age.
Just using some tweezers now just to get in there.
Sam's arm went back. Around the back.
Okay, so maybe some stuff up here, a little bit down here, a little bit of foreground stuff here. Maybe some Fittonia, some really small Fittonia at the front would look nice. I think this, is this Fittonia?
Yeah, it is as well, yeah.
Yeah.
And the variegated one as well.
As well in lots of water.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then the variegated one as well. They sent us a lot of red.
Yeah, red's a really easy plant to overdo because it will just force your attention and it starts getting a bit chaotic. So you need to use reds kind of with caution, really. I'm going to use a bit of red Fittonia just to.
Yeah, you use the forceps or the tweezers a lot in the aquascape, and it does work, doesn't it? So trying to stick
Yeah,
it
it just gives you more
instead of
control,
trying to
less
put your
chance of like you know.
the work that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Gives you.
Now, are we thinking with this? This is a good question about fertilizers and like we've got the aquascape fertilizer that George's done. Do we think in the waters we're putting that in the aquascape
Well, I was just
one?
going to ask actually whether we're assuming that any base level of water in there would have enough to keep those plants going because you're getting rid of most of the soil.
Yeah, I would say for a good few months the plants will be absolutely fine. In fact, especially if you've got animals in there and you're feeding them obviously foods.
Yeah, so there'll be some waste products and other things going around in the
you would,
nutrient.
you would probably get away without adding any additional liquid fertilisers.
Because what we're on about is the waste turns into nutrients, which obviously the plants then
Yeah,
pull.
so we're making
Yeah,
it fully
it's
like
going
that.
round. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about this area now, and this is where I think I'm going to add a little bit of colour. Focus on this beautiful red stuff.
Do you want another drink?
Yeah, can I have a coffee?
With sugar in it.
One sugar, yeah.
One sugar.
I'm trying to go sugar free, but it's not working. So just adding a little bit of the red here, just add a little bit of an accent colour, give a bit of interest to the layout, but it's not too, because the texture is similar to the other Fittonia, it's not too demanding of your attention.
I think we're all led to believe a bit with plants that we have to have them sitting in a load of soil, and I think the difference is with this, we're on about these plants' roots will stretch out to find
Exactly.
everything that they need.
Our plants are super hardy. These are just the way they're grown in a nursery for maximum, like super fast growth to get their maximum yield. So
And the plants you're actually getting out of that one as well.
yeah, you're getting like loads of different stems. And you know, I don't know if this is the typical way people scape with this, but it makes sense to me, and this is the way I do it in aquascaping, and it's exactly the same principle. The plants are going to send out their roots. They're going to get nutrients from their environment.
I think that's one of the things I've picked up most because with all the other ones we've done, I've always just taken the pot out and potted the plant.
Yeah.
Never thought to split anything up, no.
And that, you know, it's kind of understandable. The manufacturers like that because you're going to buy a pot, put it in there, get another pot, put it in there. Whereas you can get a lot of coverage just from one
And
pot.
finer detail.
I'm a hobbyist at heart, mate. I might be in retail, but it's all about looking after the hobbyist.
You can just do so much more once you break it apart, can't you?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's an interesting point. You can, they're all retail now, and we're all trying to make money. But actually, if you kind of instruct and give guidance to the hobbyist about potentially saving money, it sounds kind of counterintuitive. But they're going to trust you. They're going to come back. They're going to invest more in the hobby. They're going to buy their next tank from you.
Yeah.
It's all about getting that lifelong commitment, and it's a tough world out there, especially with online. There's a lot of competitors, but just stick to what you're good at. Looking after the staff, doing events like this, and having nice displays. And the customers are just they're not stupid. Hopefully they'll give you their hard-earned money because they respect what you're doing. Okay. So just looking at here now, quite an obvious gap. Definitely a man-made thing there, which we don't like. Don't want to see that. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do around here. We're focusing on this definite triangular kind of flow here. So I'm quite conscious to keep this relatively empty. It's all we don't want to just ram it full. We need negative space. We need open space to give this sense of contrast. So let's think about filling this, and then let's think about some lower stuff down here. So I'm thinking maybe a fern. That'd be nice, just coming up. Extend from this tree. So this is a bad drawing. I'm conscious this is quite big, don't need all of this. So
How much of what you do is anticipating what it's going to grow into as well?
in a live demo like this, it's more about trying to create something that's impactful straight away. Having a little bit of consideration for how it's going to grow. I wouldn't deliberately put, for instance, a load of really fast growing stuff because I know you guys have got to look after it. But I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea how fast this stuff's going to grow. So at the moment, my priority is making it look good.
Yeah.
When I'm aquascaping for a client, depending on their requirements and what they want, a lot of retailers that I scape for, I tend to do low maintenance stuff, but I'll pack it out straight. I'll put a lot of plants in there straight away for that instant impact. But I will put low, slow growing stuff in there, just so got a chance of maintaining it basically. Okay, so we filled out that right hand space quite nicely. Not sure if we need anything here. We've got this wood sticking out here which looks quite nice. So thinking about the foreground around here, let's use some more Fittonia. Let's go for this one.
You variegated.
This is does like quite wet conditions, so it's definitely no problem being near the substrate where a lot of that water's collecting. Interesting. This is one of the first plants I ever bought for my aquarium because it was sold as an aquatic plant. Obviously, it didn't survive for very long. But actually, gave me like the kick. Gave me like the how That's where real plants. I mean, that's what I did my research, and then
Are we doing
arguably, is this part of what
are we doing enough photographs of this as it's evolving?
So just get rid of all that heat there. And then just pop those in with the tweezers. Actually, no need to really bury this because it's going to just, those roots are going to find their own way anyway. I'm just trying to hide that transition there from that gravel at the front to the balls at the back. Let's go for some more.
Have we got any more down here that's
Any
the
more of
same
that same type?
variegated?
No.
You have some more photos.
Well, yeah, we've got a lot of red and not.
This will be fine. No, it's okay.
You haven't used anything. Wendy's asking, obviously you haven't used anything to separate, and I can't see the rest of the comment then. Let me scroll it up and see if it's... Gary, can we see the question there? Wendy's saying, obviously you haven't used anything to separate, but I can't see the rest of the question when we need to look on a computer.
Okay, so
Wendy says, obviously, you haven't used anything to separate the hydro balls from everything else. Is it okay to do that? Is it okay to do that?
yes,
Right.
is the answer.
In any bio setup that needs drainage there.
Yes, I'm not a technical expert on how the Biopod filtration works. Hopefully there's a Biopod HQ person watching right now that might be able to answer your question with 100% credibility, but the way I see it is the bioballs on top of this serrated material here allows water flow through the biomedia over the living wall, and that is basically the filtration system. This front layer here is purely aesthetic. There's no biological media here, and that's why we're kind of leaving it open as well. But eventually that will turn into biological media as well as it gets colonised with various bacteria.
Wendy, are you asking this question with regard to Biopod only, or if you're doing a bio setup using another tank system?
I think it's more important to separate. You've got a looser substrate like soil that could run into one and mix with it.
Yeah, which I can probably just walk around and show Wendy actually what we've got around here, because we obviously have all the different substrates in the shop. But if you have a look at some of these are all bio tanks which have all the. But this is what you're on about here. We have a the same the balls media, and then we have, if you look there, a piece of felt, or you can have net, and then we have whatever soil that people are choosing to use, and in that case we would definitely have a division between the two. In this case there is a plastic cover which is giving us that separation.
definitely missing a element here now. So going back to my old favourite mossy type plant here, Selaginea.
Very
So
nice.
Selaginella.
So those bits you've just placed in there, you think they're
The roots will just grow
the roots will just grow?
because they get nutrient-rich water over them, and they'll attach themselves to the wood.
Okay.
That's what happens in nature. They're called epiphyte plants. If you can do that with pretty much any plant, because if you're giving it nutrients through the roots, it will grow anywhere. It's our hydroponic.
Yeah.
People are kind of obsessed with getting it in a nutrient-rich region, but
Well, you think they're doing a lot of work, weren't they, by just having like a jelly, a water jelly with nutrients in?
okay, definite kind of gap here,
Have a
which
look.
we need to fill. This looks very. In fact, there's a bit of tape on there. Let's get rid of that.
Well spotted.
So let's just have a little think about there. I'm going to go too crazy, but I want a little bit of impact. So let's go for one of these maybe. Colour of items. Yeah.
Yeah, then, sorry again. The label is what?
Colour of item.
There it is. Let's grab the label. Show people.
This is
I can show you the plot. So this is that's the information on that one. Chlorophyton. And that is this plant here, which is very pretty actually, and it looks lovely. We put it in the aqua too, and it is looking very smart.
It's really starting to take shape now. We've still got to put a focal point plant though. I'm thinking about some empty areas around here. We could do with another kind of fine textured plant. It's not going to compete with the focal point plant, so this is interesting. What's this?
Oh yeah?
You know what that is?
No.
Okay.
We've got a few of those actually.
Yeah.
They're nice.
So I'm just going to pop this.
There isn't a label with that one, so if I grab that one off the table, it's got quite a nice leaf, quite a nice texture. So if anybody wants to know, we sell a box of 20 plants, don't we, Gary? We sell a box of 20 plants. You can have them as bromeliads or tropical. And what I've actually had on this table was 2 boxes, so 40 plants that come in the 20 pack kit. The I can't even think the name. The Celerium, what's the word? Celerium and the Celagium are extras. They're bought separately. So the ones that we're using for texture, the ones with the very very fine leaves, you have to buy them separately. But this does give you quite a good base. Oh, bad on the camera.
Right, let's go for our focal point plant.
Do you want to get a photograph with George out the way as it is now, or wait till
Let's try this little bad boy here.
Okay. Yeah, good.
What's it called? Anyone know?
Do they grow quite big? How do they? Do we know how big they grow?
They're down, not massive, but we have got some slightly
Larger in this.
great.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to
What,
what
8
fruit.
inches, 3 inches, 25 inches?
About 10 foot. We've got the right nutrients in the water. It's
About
fine.
half as big again.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
about
the wood-
half as big as
The wood's going to get soaked with water. That's going to pick up the nutrients.
I think it's really important when we set this one up that we have it, that the rain doing quite a bit of movement on this.
I
Well,
think
we
that
need-
is quite good light as well, so it's in a good position there to keep the colour.
Is that right? So
Yeah,
if they're
whereas
hidden away from the
it
from
will
the
fade.
it fades.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
we're nearly there.
what's
We've
the
got
name of the mossy plant?
there's this one.
Yeah.
Solaginella.
That one. Okay, mossy plant was that. Hold on, there we go. Selaginella. Selaginella.
Okay, now it's all about detailing. Got a real big gap here. It's quite good to have some gaps. We don't want to fill everything up necessarily just because we can.
It's actually quite a nice, interesting thing to look into, isn't it?
Yeah, so we want to, it helps create a sense of depth. We've got this bit of wood running all the way to the back, leads the eye across to the focal point here. We've got this beautiful bit of wood here, showcasing the focal point there. So I just think we've got a little bit of, we haven't got any mosses, have we?
Yes, no, we have. Down there, we've got the frog moss for you.
Okay.
One of those is open from the other, in these box. That one,
Oh yeah, cool.
which is the ones we used. There are other mosses, but there's a new box there if you need it. I do believe there's a range of mosses becoming available this week, is there, Gary?
Is there?
I think there may be, but I will. Yeah, we'll, yeah. Looks different wet, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I'm just wetting this to make it easy to work with. It's quite dry and brittle.
I know who you're going.
So just proportions, I think.
Yeah, that plant lends itself very much for that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, getting some love from someone. Have you ever used mushroom spores? Good question. What we got? How's Anthony going on? Have we ever used mushroom spores in? Can't read the rest of it.
We've had some growing spontaneously in some of our bioactive setups.
Yeah, we
I've
have.
left them be.
There might even be some in there.
Dangerous.
Haven't planted them, but
No.
you could make a very interesting setup if you were. I wouldn't be putting mushroom spores in with frogs and things. You've got to be very careful.
No, yeah. Sensitive skin and all that.
Okay, so now it's all about detailing, just to really bring it to life.
That's different again. That
Make-
box, isn't it? That's
Make
quite,
it mature.
quite nice. So this, if anybody wants it, is called the frog moss, which I think is a
Zoomed.
Zoomed product. They do other mosses in boxes as well, do
Yeah.
they? We like this because of how beautiful.
Green, really nice green, nice
Correct me if
texture.
I'm wrong, but that's essentially inactive until you wet it again. It'll bring back to life and seed.
Yep.
Start spreading.
Yeah.
We've used quite a lot of this in our tanks, so it has actually taken.
it's just all about hiding those sort of man-made edges. So it just blends it all into one sort of naturalistic.
Is that let them go, is it? It does, pick me up, yeah. You get the bottom and put it in. Nice now, it's lovely.
Just conscious of this area here. It's nice to see a dark bit, but I'm just thinking maybe this area here as well.
Good,
Maybe some more, yeah, maybe some more of that. Which looks nice. See what this is like.
I don't know much about that. It's a very pretty plant.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Looks like a garlic, doesn't it?
So this is ponytail palm, Nalina recurvata.
Ponytail palm.
You're doing that actually. So.
Bad idea.
Get it in there at the back.
So this is a bulb plant, so all the loads of the nutrients are held in there. So realistically, you don't even need to bury it. In fact, you shouldn't bury it fully because it needs to have access to the air. So don't worry too much about burying it in the substrate completely. Those roots will grow into it anyway and pick up any extra nutrients that it needs.
That way.
So this is a beautiful plant. It's just really adding some height to that left-hand side to complement the flow up there.
Stunning.
Right, some more detailing now with some twigs and stuff. So it's all about the details. Little details add up to something that's just a little bit different, a little bit more natural looking. And it's attention to detail that really helps. Sorry for destroying your lovely bit of...
No, I'm not cringing.
Arguably worth more, I've now touched it. So. God, I get so much stick for that comment now.
So much stick, laugh out loud. Simple
joke.
Okay.
I'm not watching them.
So we're just adding this to the foreground to just give us sort of idea that it's fallen. It's a tropical forest with fallen sort of trees, and this really helps to add a sense of nature. And you could have like tiny little leaves in there, leaf litter maybe, just to give this essence of a jungle. Little bit conscious about this area here, it needs to look a little bit more natural, so I'm going to use a little bit more of that frog moss.
Rocky Crowder has just said hello, evening guys. Hi George.
Hi Rocky. How you doing, mate?
I'm having a beer.
There's Rocky.
Cool. Okay. So in aquascaping, a lot of the things is about transitions. It's about where your eye's being led. So you've got plain gravel that's really inert going up straight to this kind of broad textured plant, and that looks a little bit unnatural. That's some sort of sterility up to, you know, big nature. You kind of have to soften that transition. That's why this comes in really handy.
I'm going to put that there, and then you might think to have a sip of it before it gets cold.
Top tip is to have wood. If you have wood crossing over other wood, it just makes it look a little bit more impactful, a little bit more natural.
Very good.
Something around here now, because this looks.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
He's thinking that the wood on the left hand side.
It's a little bit empty. We're trying to hide this cable as well, if we can. Have everything. It's nice though, I think.
Yeah, very nice.
I've watched you do it and I still don't understand how it got to that point.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think the idea is patience and sit back. When we try and do it at work, we're trying to throw them together really quick.
And you're doing it when you've got people, really. You just almost need to just do it when you're.
Yeah, have a plan, have a vision. Hardscape first, then think about your main plants, but don't necessarily put them in first. Think about your background plants, your thematic plants. In which case you can hardly see it, but without it, it would just look really unnatural. You just work from the background, work your way forward. Think about your detailing at the end. But hardscape, you know, the wood. You know, if you imagine there was no wood there, it would just be a non-event really.
Rocky, we're going to be putting some poison arrow frogs in here. I think what we'll probably do is give it a week or so, and let it settle. Just check everything's okay.
Attaching itself.
Attaching itself,
Yeah.
and then we'll put some very nice frogs in at the moment.
Let's make it look really natural. Put some plastic bottles in there.
Not at the right. Okay, just press it again. It'll come back on. Press it. No.
Is that what battery?
Oh, actually, I should probably change it back
Yeah, I
over.
will, 'cause that's.
Right, let me have that charger. I'm going to dodge it. I'll have that charger on there. All those.
So ready to do something.
Sorry guys, we're just changing the charger on the phone because we're just worried it might run out.
How much?
That one can go back on charge and then it'll have something to.
Yeah, why not?
You've done that, yeah. You can take that phone the thingy charger out and use that down there.
Which one?
I don't need
This
it.
one?
Do we need this?
Yes, because he'll need it when he goes home.
Okay,
He's
so
got
you
6
want to
hours
charge
on it.
this, yeah?
You've got 6 hours on the train to get home, haven't you?
Depends whether he goes the right way. Maybe we should put him on the train.
The bus might be quicker. Or one of those on your own bikes.
Electric bike. Goes inside and then it just needs plugging in somewhere.
Just
still on live, are you know?
I'm still on live. We've still got 11 people following us. What's awesome, says Rocky. Rocky, where are you? Are you in the UK or are you abroad?
Rocky's co-owner of Crowders Aquatics.
Of which? Oh, Fathoms? Crowders.
Yeah, in Borden.
So you've done aquascapes for him,
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah. Did some the other week.
Nice.
Yeah, small family-run business, really nice.
I think you mentioned it actually.
Yeah.
I think that was a place to visit. So Rocky, we've got to come and see you. So we'll do that. Huh? Come and see you. Not sober. So the crossover, people in the aquatic trade might be looking at the crossover, mightn't they? That the Aqua 2 that we did, it does.
Oh, massive crossover. For an aquascaper, it makes perfect sense because it's all about, that creating that landscape underwater, which is literally what this is. So it's the next step, and it's actually arguably much lower maintenance than a full aquascape because you got the water changes. There's very little algae build up on the glass. The plants aren't going to get algae on them. It's a really nice way of introducing the slice of nature into your home. Really quite easy way to do it.
I'm just going to take a photo of you if you smile. There you go. Brilliant. Back to video.
So that's it. Everyone that's watching for real. Hopefully you saw how relatively easy that was. We followed a distinct sort of process. Hardscape is really important. We don't necessarily have to rely on stuff that does, specifically designed for, terrestrial or aquatic use. You can, kind of go your own way as long as it's, safe for the inhabitants.
Sam was saying, great job. Well, thanks, Sam. We are very pleased with that. It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's awesome. I think what I've learned with the two that you've done is not being scared to actually put the right amount of plants in.
If you want that, if you want that
impact, as you say, that
yeah,
impact.
I mean, I've used a lot of plants there, but
but it's
if you
it's
want
a feature, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're making a feature. It's not just about the animals. You've got, as you say, you've got a garden in your home now.
Yeah, and it's to enjoy and talking point as well. People that come in, if you have that in your home, anyone that's visiting are gonna. It's going to get a lot of attention, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can just imagine sitting on the sofa just watching the frogs jumping about with that beautiful.
I think having just one or two animals makes a difference because you've got so much.
Well, you're actually hunting for them.
Yeah, you don't even need a pair of dart fox in there. That's all you need.
Yeah, you don't want anything that's going to disturb it, really, do you?
No, exactly.
And that's a really important point because a lot of people they're always asking how many fish can I put in it. You shouldn't be asking that question. You should be asking how many fish can I put in it to make it look as good as it can do. Yeah. So it's a different kind of mindset. With aquascaping or scaping, it's about the aesthetic and it's about the inhabitants need to visually balance the whole scape. They're part of the scape.
The main thing there is part of it, like each other.
And don't get me wrong, their welfare was always paramount, but it's creating that beautiful looking environment for them that's not only beautiful looking, but it actually serves a purpose from a functional point of view. Plants are like amazing filters. So, yeah.
So with this now, we'll put some water in it, I presume, so that the water then can run through down the back wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a reservoir at the back that we then use for the misting system. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a minimum water level that it needs to do that.
Well, that is something that we can inquire about.
In theory,
That was the sort.
because in theory you could have the water level below
The
that
stone,
level of the stones, or even above if you wanted.
as long as the unit that's sucking it up is below that. Yeah, exactly.
So I think it was good with a lower water level.
I'm going to get a biopod for home. What would Rocky would like a biopod for home? Can we see his full question? From here I can't see
What would
it.
you recommend for a beginner, as in frogs?
Any in this?
Yeah,
Small
poison arrow frogs are quite easy.
The guys in Canada and I think Chester Zoo have been working with frogs, and they've done very, very well with breeding them even in this environment. So I don't think you should be scared. But you want something that's moving around like the poison arrow frogs.
Nothing
They're
too big.
quite active, yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
a big.
Well, the blue,
Blue poison arrow frogs.
yeah, or the
They're the dying poison arrow
dying
frogs.
poison arrows are beautiful.
Green and blacks, yellow and blacks. I think they'll have a.
If Rocky wants to give us a ring, we can go through that with you and help you get your biopod and your frogs, Rocky. We'll sort that out for you. Happy?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Give it a little fun.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, brilliant.
Thanks for watching. Tune into the Reptile Centre's Facebook page for more updates on this, and the Northampton
Reptile and Fish Centre.
Reptile and Fish Centre as well, because I did a Biopod there and an Aquascape at 900. So give them a like, get them on your notifications, and keep on scaping. Thanks for
Brilliant.
watching.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.